Asset protection is an area that should be taken very seriously. The Independent Association of Business Communicators stated that 94% of the world's lawsuits are filed inside U.S. borders. Make sure you are protected. Make yourself judgment-proof.
We have just discussed estate planning, and with estate planning we have made the point that there is no asset protection in a living trust, in a will, in powers of attorney, those kinds of things. And so in looking at what you have to protect, the hardest thing that you have is your home. The reason it's hard to protect your home is because if you put it into a limited liability company or a family limited partnership or a family corporation, you lose the write-off. You lose the write-off in your property taxes and in your mortgage interest. That's usually much too high of a price to pay for asset protection. And so what we do is we set up a land trust. In the land trust, you have a professional trustee, usually my company, Equitable Partners, LC, which does nothing but be the trustee of land trusts. Because the property is now in the name of my company, you gain instant anonymity. You become a beneficiary of the trust, but you are the directing beneficiary. You are the one that tells the trustee, who by the way is simply a fiduciary, but a fiduciary that has the title to your property. You tell the fiduciary what to do, so you do not lose control of your property. You get the anonymity and you get the pass-through on the mortgage interest and the property taxes. Now, we want to strengthen the land trust, and we want to set up the next entity for a very appropriate purpose. We set up a second beneficiary to the land trust, and we call this the Family Limited Partnership. The Family Limited Partnership is controlled by you and your spouse, as well as your being the original beneficiaries. But the difference with the Family Limited Partnership is we bring your children into the mix. Therefore, if a creditor came to court, brought you to court, and in court the judge liked the creditor more than the judge liked you and would try and find some way to collapse your land trust, he cannot do that, because in your Family Limited Partnership are parties that are not party to the lawsuit. They're innocent in that regard, and the judge cannot rule adversely against innocent parties. The thing then that we want to understand about this scenario is that with your land trust, you as the primary beneficiaries, your Family Limited Partnership as the secondary beneficiary, we are now judgment-proof as regards your home and one other specific thing. Let me get there. In your Family Limited Partnership, we place all of your passive assets, all of your assets that can't come back and bite you in the rear, such as your bank accounts, any investment accounts that you have, your personal property, and any cash value life insurance that you might have. So with this scenario, with the land trust and your Family Limited Partnership, you are judgment proof as regards those assets. The land trust, by the way, has been around for hundreds of years. This is based on English common law. It came about in England, where a young man might inherit his parents' estate, and because he owned the land, he now has to go to war for the king. He doesn't want to go to war for the king, so he transfers the property to his great uncle in trust, and the great uncle then owns the property as trustee. And this is kind of the origins then of the land trust. It became kind of famous during the 1920s in Illinois, and Illinois became the first state to enact legislation to make land trusts efficacious. And so sometimes it's called the Illinois Land Trust, and if you go on the internet and you look up Illinois land trusts, you'll get a lot of information regarding these kinds of trusts. Understand again that you do retain full use and beneficial enjoyment of your property. It also, again, allows the pass-through on your mortgage interest and your property taxes, and it creates for you complete anonymity. Now, that takes care of your personal property asset protection. If you do the land trust, the family limited partnership, then you are going to be protected as regards your personal assets. If you lose everything else, you always have the nest, you always have your liquid assets, and you can recover from catastrophes. Now, the next thing we want to set up is a limited liability company. This is for your business interests. In some states, you can have a limited liability company in series. Series means that you can have different aspects of your business. If you're in the real estate business, you could have several real estate properties. If you're in some other business and your wife wanted to do the candle making business in the basement, we could bring her business in as a separate business, protected separately. Delaware came up with this concept about 10 years ago, and some other states have used this as well. But a limited liability company is a very friendly entity. We don't have to keep annual minutes. We don't have to have annual meetings. And it can hold all of our risk-bearing assets like our automobiles, boats, RVs, and those kinds of things. If you do have a series, by the way, the way to set up a series is really quite simple. You need two things. You need a set of minutes saying that this part of your business is going to be separate and within the series, and then you need to have separate accounting on that part of your business. You file one tax return, one 1025 or 1065 at the end of the year. You also can have one bank account. So it's not complicated, and it doesn't really take us out of the realm of what we would normally do in business in any case.
We're all hit with taxes. It is always to your benefit to find ways to reduce your tax load, and you can through the companies and structures you form.
So coming back to the overall plan, we want an estate plan, we want a land trust, we want a family limited partnership, and we want an LLC. Now by using these entities, we can also get a major tax benefit. We call this layering. And how it works is if you're involved in a self-employment business, you're going to have to pay self-employment tax. And this is based upon your first $97,500 worth of income. This is taxed at 15.3% for a maximum of $14,900 that you pay in FICA before you pay $1 of income tax. Now, if you go to your accountant and you say to your accountant, look at all of this money going into FICA, is there anything that we can do about that? Your accountant will say, yes. We will set up for you a sub-S corporation. If we set up the sub-S corporation, we're going to put half of your income, half of the $97,500 into the sub-S. So $48,750 is going to go into the sub-S as wages. $48,750 is going to go or be considered as dividends. And so if we've changed the nature of our income from active, that is wages, to passive, which is dividends, passive income is not subject to FICA. And so we have just saved $7,450 by doing the sub-S arrangement. The problem with S-Corps is that they don't have the same protections and possibilities that limited liability companies have. And also, let's say for instance that you only made $40,000, you had a bad year, and you say to your accountant, well, let's do a 20-20 split. $20,000 is going to go into wages, $20,000 is going to go into dividends. The IRS 2 years ago hired 1,200 new agents just to look at Subchapter S arrangements. Why? Because believe it or not, people push the envelope. And so why doesn't 55-45 work, 60-40, 70-30? Why can't I push the envelope in those directions? Well, they do that. The IRS comes in and audits and they say that that's not going to work. So on our example of only making $40,000, you say 20/20 works, they come in and they audit you and they say, no, I don't think so. It doesn't seem reasonable to me, and they have a different interpretation of reasonable, believe it or not, than you do. And they say you cannot live on $20,000 worth of wages. Therefore, we are going to make you have a 35-5 split instead. So is there another way to go here? And of course there is, and we call that layering. We take a limited liability company and also a family limited partnership, and we have the family limited partnership own 90% of the limited liability company. If that works, we have dropped your $14,900 maximum self-employment tax down to $1,490. And it does work. It doesn't always work, but it does work a lot of the times. There are two things that the IRS has ruled on that have to happen before this will work. First of all, the limited liability company has to be selling widgets. It has to be selling tangible things, such as homes. If you're in the real estate business and you're flipping homes, you're wholesaling homes, you're buying homes for rental, that sort of thing, those are widgets, and this works. If you're in the multi-level marketing business, multi-level marketing companies by definition have to sell things or they can't qualify. And so these kinds of businesses will work, but a doctor, dentist, lawyer, accountant, insurance salesman, commission agent, these are services, and you're looking at the sub-S arrangement. But if you can qualify for the widget arrangement, and your limited liability, number two, your limited partnership entity has a business purpose other than just owning the interest in the limited liability company, then it works. And so this fits in with our diagram where we have the land trust, the family limited partnership being a leg of the land trust, but also owning the limited liability company to the extent of 90%. And so this is a very simple asset protection diagram, much more simple than most of the ones I've ever seen, and yet it protects better than any that I have ever seen.
IRS Code Section 280A. Now, as far as IRS codes go, this is a very interesting one.
Under Section 280A, you can get another $12,000 to $14,000 a year in tax write-off. We just showed you how you can get $13,000 a year savings on your FICA. But if you want to hold business meetings, for instance, once a month, under 280A, you can use your own home and you can rent your home to your company. If you rent the home to the company using local rates that you would get, for instance, in a hotel locally, then you can write those off. You can pay yourself rent, and that's tax-free income. Interesting thing under 280A. The maximum number of days you can do this is 14 days out of the year. So you can have monthly meetings, semi-annual meetings, an annual meeting, and that sort of thing.